Survival was not a game of strength, but a game of focus. Every breath had to be silent, every muscle frozen like the ice beneath our feet.
We learned to read the wind, To stay downwind was to stay invisible.
Before the hunt, we chose our teeth obsidian, sharper than any modern scalpel, would be our edge against the giant's thick hide. Each strike had to be precise. A cracked blade meant a failed hunt, and a failed hunt meant a starving tribe.
We bound the earth's stone to the forest's wood with the strength of the beasts we had already conquered.
To kill a monster, we had to become ghosts. Mud and ash hid our scent and our skin from the keen eyes of the tundra. There it was, a mountain of fur and ivory, a creature of legend that could feed us for a season or crush us in a second.
Coordination was our true weapon. A single man is prey. A pack of men is the world's most dangerous predator. The earth tells a story to those who know how to listen. The depth of the track told us its weight. The moisture told us its lead.
We invented ways to strike from a distance. The spear thrower extended our reach, turning human muscle into a lethal engine of velocity. We chose the ground carefully. The terrain would be our cage, forcing the giant into a place where its size became its weakness. We used fear as a tool, guiding the beast toward its destiny with calculated noise and movement.
Fire was our wall. It channeled the beast's panic, narrowing its path toward our hidden spears.
The air shook with its scream. For a moment, the world stood still as the Titan realized it was no longer alone in the cold.
The first spear was a declaration. It carried the hope of the women and children waiting back in the dark of the caves. Stone met skin. Intelligence met brute force.
We attacked like a swarm. From every shadow, a new threat emerged, giving the Titan no room to breathe or fight back. Courage was the final ingredient. To take down a mountain, you had to be willing to stand upon its peak.
We targeted the foundation. By breaking its legs, we brought the giant down to our level, stripping away. The earth itself became our ally. In the mud and the mire, the Titan's strength became its anchor.
In its eyes, we saw a reflection of ourselves. A struggle for life in a world that gives nothing for free.
One final act of mercy and necessity. The mountain fell, and with its fall, the survival of the tribe was...
Silence returned to the tundra. A silence filled with respect for the life that had been taken so that others might live.
We did not celebrate with hate. We thanked the spirit of the giant, for its body would become our warmth. hunt began long before the first track was found. In the hands of our children, the future of the apex predator.
Muscle was the engine of our spears. To survive the tundra, the body had to be as hard as the flint we carried. Prepared in body and spirit, we were ready.
The hunt was over, but the race against time had begun. We had to harvest the giant before the wolves arrived.
The hide was our first prize. Thick and durable, it would become the walls of our homes and protection against the biting cold. Fat was more than food, it was fuel. It kept our bodies warm and powered the stone lamps that lit our deepest caves. To survive the long months of hunger, we mastered the art of smoke. By removing moisture, we turned a single kill into a year of security. The tusks were the ivory gold of the tundra. Strong and flexible, they were the pillars of our tents and our ultimate building material. Nothing was wasted. Even the core of the bone provided a rich, life-saving energy that kept our minds sharp. Cleaning the hide was back-breaking work. It took days of constant scraping to turn a bloody skin into soft, wearable leather. The invention of the needle was a revolution. It allowed us to tailor our clothing, trapping a layer of air against our skin.
Our footwear was our freedom.
With tailored boots, the hunter could travel further and across terrains that would kill an unprotected man.
We found beauty in the remains. Ivory became our canvas. Our homes were built from the giants we conquered. A mammoth bone hut was a fortress against the blizzard.
Value began to take shape. A surplus of meat allowed us to trade for things we didn't have, creating the first threads of an economy. We rendered the fat into liquid gold, a pure energy source that would power our lamps through the longest nights.
Storage was key. Every drop of oil was a minute of light and a spark of hope in the dark. The simplest things were the most vital. Dried moss became the bridge between the fuel and the flame. With the lamp, we conquered the shadows. The dark of the cave became a sanctuary for our stories and our souls. Before we could sew, we had to pierce. The bone awl was the ancestor of every needle ever made. Our homes required constant care. A single loose stitch could let the deadly winter wind inside. A dull tool was a useless tool. We spent our evenings refining the instruments of our survival. Comfort was a luxury we earned. Fur around the neck kept the warmth from escaping into the frozen air.
We added color to our world. Red ochre was the blood of the earth, used to beautify our clothes and our lives.
Every piece of equipment was fitted to the man. A tight belt kept our tools close and our warmth in.
To walk on top of the winter, we had to learn the shape of the snow willow, and hide became our wings.
The web of the snowshoe distributed our weight, allowing us to hunt where the mammoth would sink. Technology changed the landscape. The deep powder was no longer a barrier, but a highway for the tribe.
Even in the harshest wild, we maintained our dignity. Personal care was a sign of a healthy community.
Carrying life was as important as taking it. The bladder bag was our lifeline across the dry plains. We found music in the silence. The hollow wing bone of a bird became a voice that carried our songs. The smoke didn't just preserve, it softened. It turned the rigid skin into a flexible second skin. Brutal force was guided by design. The hammer allowed us to break what nature had made unbreakable.
We discovered the hidden bonds of nature. Hoof glue held our spears together when the sinew failed. Our tools became more specialized. The barbed harpoon meant the rivers provided a new bounty.
We were adaptive. When the big game was scarce, the silver bounty of the water kept us strong. Every small victory was added to our store, and diversity of food was the secret to our resilience. We carried the spirit of the world in our bags. Every item was a medicine for the tribe's journey. We were beginning to understand the power of the seed. The grains became our winter bread. We ate what the earth gave. Our food was as tough as the people who made it.
Before the kiln, we used the sun. Clay was the earth's gift that allowed us to hold the water.
Fire transformed the soft into the hard. The first vessels were born from the heat of our survival. We cooked without metal. The heat of the stone was enough to turn raw meat into a nourishing broth. The first act of civilization was the sharing of a meal. No one ate alone. We were one tribe.
Maintenance was a daily ritual. A hunter's life depended on the integrity of his tools.
We found time for beauty. Jewelry was a connection to the animals we hunted and the tribe we loved.
Every material was tested. We knew the breaking point of everything we used. Sleep was our recovery. In the heart of the fur, the freezing world outside felt 1,000 miles away. Vigilance was the price of peace war. While the tribe slept, The predator stayed awake, watching the darkness. The fire never died. It was the eternal flame of our species, the light that kept the monsters at bay.
Every dawn was a victory. The frost retreated, and we stood ready to face another day.
We were the masters of the stone. Every strike was a step away from being prey.
Love was expressed through our hands. To keep our children warm was to keep our future alive. Education was a legacy. We passed our skills from one generation to the next, never breaking the chain.
We were the first historians. Our carvings were the blueprints of our survival, a library of ivory. The world was bigger than our valley. Trade brought the flavor of the sea to the heart of the mountains. We watched the stars. Knowing when the light returned was as important as knowing where the mammoth was.
We celebrated the life we had stolen from the cold. Our dance was a defiance against the silence.
We were ready to move. The harvest was complete, and our stores were full.
Strength was in the details. Every wrap of the cord was a promise that the tool would not break.
We worked the skin until it was as soft as a cloud, a second layer of warmth for the journey ahead.
We learned to see the tools hidden inside the animal. A hook from an antler, life from a life.
The winter tested our structures. Our mammoth bone tents stood firm against the rage of the sky.
Fire provided more than heat. It transformed our food, making it easier for the old and the young to eat.
A broken point was a broken day wide. We maintained our gear with the focus of a craftsman.
We gave each other tokens of luck. A small bison for a big hunt. A prayer carved in ivory.
Chemistry was our survival. We learned the secrets of the forest to protect the skins of the tundra.
The marrow was our richest fuel. It kept our hearts beating through the nights where the world turned to ice.
The forest gave us everything sinew couldn't. Fiber and bark became the threads of our daily life. We mastered the glass of the earth. Sharp enough to cut the wind, strong enough to win the hunt.
Play was our school. In their games, the children learned the physics of the sledge and the rhythm of the snow.
We wore our history on our skin. Every mark was a victory over the cold and a sign of our rank. Mobility was our life. We packed our survival into bundles, ready to carry our wealth across the horizon. Protection was paramount. To lose heat was to lose life. We guarded our warmth with everything we had. Water was a hidden treasure in the winter. We learned where the springs never froze, the arteries of the land.
The fire was our city. In its light, we shared our stories and built the spirit of a nation. One last harvest before the march. Our stores were full. Our spirits were high.
In the warmth of the firs, we dreamed of a world where hunger was a memory. We were ready for the dawn. The apex predator had mastered the earth. Through death,
We were no longer isolated dots in the cold. A single spark on a mountain.
from the horizon, the answer came. Other clans, other bloodlines, all moving toward the same sacred valley.
To survive the ice, we had to stop fighting each other. The meeting of the clans was the birth of our first great alliance. We traded more than just tools. We traded beauty. These shells from a distant ocean were the first symbols of our growing world.
Red was the color of life. By marking our faces with the earth's blood, we declared ourselves one family under the sun.
Every mark had a meaning. Every line told a story of a hunt, a loss, or a promise made to the spirits of the ancestors.
Marriage was our strongest bridge. By joining our bloodlines, we ensured that the wisdom of two tribes would live on.
We looked for meaning in the heat. The shaman saw the patterns of the future, guiding the tribe through the omens.
First music was the heartbeat of the earth. The drum called our spirits to wake, connecting us to the pulse of the wild.
We danced to remember who we were. Our movements mimicked the mammoth and the wolf, honoring the creatures.
Grunts became names. Sounds became maps. Language was the invisible thread that allowed us to build a future together.
We were the first storytellers. We left our mark on the stone so that the generations to come would know we were here.
Power was no longer just about the strongest arm. It was about the wisest word. The council was our first government.
The legacy was passed hand to hand. The spear was a responsibility to protect the weak and feed the hungry.
We discovered the mercy of the earth. Medicine allowed our warriors to return, turning even in death, we stayed together. We buried our dead with their tools, believing that the journey continued.
To speak to the gods, we wore the faces of the wild. The mask allowed the man to vanish and the spirit to speak.
Our handprints were our signatures, and "I was here," the stone shouted back at us through the silence of the ages. The feast broke the walls of fear. Around the fire, the stranger became the brother, and the tribe became a nation.
We mastered time itself. By tracking the sun, we knew when the light would return and the ice would break.
We were the first mathematicians. Tracking the heavens allowed us to predict the return of the great herds.
Through the sacred smoke, we sought the vision of the ancestors, asking for guidance in the long winter.
Silent communication was our survival. Before the word, the hand spoke the truth of the danger ahead.
We carried our prayers in our hands. An ivory bison for strength, a bird for speed, a totem for protection.
The skin was a canvas of honor. Every mark was a hunt won, every pattern a rank earned in the eyes of the tribe.
The fire was our first school. Our myths were the blueprints of morality, teaching us how to be human.
We entered the womb of the earth. In the deepest dark, we found the silence where the gods lived. We reached for the heights. Our art was not just on the walls, but above us, like the stars we could never touch. Music was our bridge to the infinite. A simple bone could carry a melody that calmed the heart of the tribe.
We honored the fallen giants. Their skulls became the boundaries of our sacred ground, a monument to the cycle of life. Trust was our most valuable tool. A bond of blood meant that no hunter would ever have to stand alone again.
We found the colors of the sky and the earth. Trade brought the beauty of far-off lands to our winter fires.
In the dance, the man became the spirit. We moved to the rhythm of the wind, seeking the favor of the storm.
Identity was born in a sound. Giving a name was the first act of love, distinguishing one soul from the many.
The sky was our first map. The elders taught us that the stars were the eyes of the hunters who came before us. Pain was a rite of passage. To endure was to prove that the spirit was stronger than the flesh.
Tools were our legacy. A father's blade in a son's hand meant the hunt would never truly end.
We blessed the new life. Water from the sacred spring was the promise of growth and the purity of the tribe. In sleep, we were equal. Our dreams were the shared visions of a world where the hunt was always plenty.
Leadership was earned, then symbolized. The crown was the weight of the tribe's trust upon a single brow.
We celebrated the earth's bounty. For every life we took, we thanked the land for the seeds and the seasons.
A piece of the beast stayed with us. The pendant was a reminder of the courage we found in the heat of the hunt. Sound was a weapon against the dark. Our chants filled the silence, making the wild feel a little less empty.
Unity was written in stone. Many hands, one tribe, one history recorded for the eyes of the future.
We turned ivory into air. The fluteless song was the first voice of human creativity.
We became the animals we feared. By wearing their skin, we inherited their strength and their survival.
We mined the colors of the spirit. This red dust was the most precious thing we owned, the blood of the mountain. The drum was the engine of the ritual. Each beat was a step closer to the realm where the spirits lived. Honey and marrow, the sweetness of peace. Diplomacy was the highest form of human intelligence. Every feather was a clan. The staff was our first constitution, a symbol of many voices speaking as one.
We carried our library in our minds. Words were the only treasure that couldn't be stolen by the wind.
We began to abstract the world, a circle for the sun, a line for the path, the birth of the written mind. Faith was our fire. To walk through the heat was to prove that the mind could master the body's fear.
Respect was the foundation of our rank. We honored those who had survived the most winters.
Cooperation was our greatest invention. Together, we built structures that no single man could dream of.
The bowl held the scent of the sacred. In its smoke, we found the peace that allowed the tribe to grow.
We were the people of the Mammoth. The mark on our skin was our eternal oath to the giant.
We nurtured the imagination. The doll was the first step into a world of play and empathy.
Our songs filled the empty spaces. Music was our way of telling the world that we were no longer afraid.
Wings for the soul. The eagle's feathers represented the vision and the height of our ambition.
We invented a code. These symbols were the ancestors of every book ever written, every thought recorded. We were a nation on the move. Driven by spirit and united by blood, we marched toward the new world.
We carried the sun in our hands. The fire pot was the heartbeat of our mobility, the seed of our survival.
We wore the power of the wild. The headdress was the bridge between the human mind and the animal spirit.
Bread and meat were the true diplomats. Around the shared fire, our differences melted like the winter frost.
We loved with the intensity of those who know how fragile life is. Family was the core of the tribe.
The totem was our anchor. It reminded us that we were part of something much bigger than ourselves. We left our shadows on the wall. The caves were our past, but the horizon was our future.
Unity was their birthright. These children would never know the isolation of the lonely hunter. We entered the future through the bones of the past. The giant was dead, but its legacy was our home.
5 clans, 1 vision. The Alliance was the first step toward the empires of the future.
We curated our technology. These blades were the proof of our intelligence and the instruments of our dominance.
The world was vast, but we were no longer afraid. We had the fire, the stone, and each other.
The spark that began in a dark cave now burns with the power of 1,000 tribes.
From the first fire to the end of time, our